had a student last year. We got into this huge gun debate, right? And he laughed. He's like, well, you Democrats, you have all these feelings and you want to take away our guns. And I said, hold on a second. And I reached in my pocket and I pulled out my wallet and I pulled out my FOID card and I sat it down. He went, you have a gun? And I went, yes, but you're a Democrat. I said, do you think only Republicans own guns? Do you think only Republicans think that gun ownership is acceptable? I said, there are common sense guidelines. I don't think that we should disarm everybody. Do I think, and I said, let me ask you a question. Do you think you should be able to roll down Veterans Parkway in a tank? And he's like, well, no. I said, so you're for some restrictions. Well, yes. I said, should I am a huge, I love Arnold Schwarzenegger's Predator, right? Should I be able to have a Gatling gun that I can walk around on campus because I feel more comfortable when I'm carrying a helicopter gun? Well, no. Should I be able to come to class with a shoulder-mounted rocket launcher? Well, no. I said, so there's 4 examples that you would say, well, that's a bridge too far.
It's interesting how you could find some common ground if you just sit and talk, though. It's like eventually you will come to some area. It's like, well, maybe. And then the other person, well, maybe. Okay, well, maybe we can say within here and here, this is what can be permitted by the law.
Without a doubt. And so because he immediately thought, because I'm a Democrat, I must mean no guns, period. I'm like, listen, I married a girl from rural Ohio. The day I walked into her mom and dad's house, there was a loaded shotgun in the corner. I asked my father-in-law, why do you have a shotgun in the corner? He says, well, those are for the beavers. And I said, you got a big beaver problem on the farm? He says, believe it or not, yeah, they get into a lot of things. And I'm like, this guy he's not going out shooting up the town square. He's not the guy in Highland Park. He's a guy that's killing some varmint on his farmland. Guns can be used in a logical and useful way. It's the same thing when people think. They take one thing and then they extrapolate out and they say, well, it's going to lead to this. I don't know how many times you've heard it, probably with your age as well. Violent video games have led to all of this violence. Like, listen, do you know how many zombies I've killed? I mean, and now my daughter and I share a love of killing zombies in Resident Evil 6, right? We sit there at night and we love playing games together. At no point in time have I ever taken the next logical leap of, you know what, maybe I should go out and shoot people. Well, this is a video game. I understand that this is not real. I don't take that next leap. And the vast majority of people that play violent video games don't have any of those problems. Are there some people that do? Sure. But does that mean that we have to ban video games for when 99.9% of the population doesn't have any problem with it? Now, guns are different, right? It's the same thing. Are they bad? Okay. One of the things that I will suggest, one of the things that we stop doing in politics is using the terms good or bad and big and small. I hate people that don't define their terms.
Right.
We do it all the time, right? I'm for small government. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's intentionally vague, I think.
Right. All right. I mean, I'm for big government. I'm a Democrat. I don't know what you mean by big government. I don't want government telling me what to do any more than you want government telling you what to do. And actually, the longer we sit and talk, this is one of the things that was great about Murphy and I. We actually found there's tons of commonalities that I had. Murphy was in here. He was telling this story about a guy named Rich Buchanan, former mayor of Bloomington, and then ran for county board. Got along with Rich really, really well. I remember after one, I was on the finance committee, and after one particular meeting, he stopped me. He says, "Rankin, you're more fiscally conservative than most of the Republicans on this county board." And I said, because in my position as an elected official, I'm spending not just Erik Rankin's money. I'm spending Paul Garcia's money. I'm spending Joe Blow's money. That's your tax dollars that I'm in charge of. I'm not just going to go out and waste your money just because I think that I want to waste your money. Democrats can be fiscal conservatives. Republicans can be socially liberal. Now, all of a sudden, people are like, wait, what? No. Yes, these vague terms are what get us in trouble all the time. All the time. Now, are some of those vague terms true? Yes, of course, right? Do some people, when we say, do I believe in small government? Small to them means none. Okay, I don't believe in that. Right? Do you believe in big government? Do I believe the government has a role? Yes. Do I believe the government should do as much as it can to help even the playing field in our country? Sure. Cool. Does that make it big? I don't know how you define big, right? But that's where we tend to get into problems with people all the time.
I want to jump into a specific topic that we've touched on, and it's guns.
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of guns. More so, look, there's been a spike in mass shootings. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think about it.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
Right.
Is this like, a lot of people say it's a mental health problem disguised as a gun problem. Yeah. But what say you?
Yeah, sure. It's both, right? Nobody should be shocked that when another human being kills another human being, that there's a mental health issue. Humans aren't supposed to, for no reason, go out and kill other human beings. Of course that person was suffering from some sort of a mental problem. But the problem is much bigger. How did that person get that weapon of, really, let's call it what it is. It's a weapon of mass destruction, right? I think I saw, if I'm not mistaken, I think the number was in the first 6 months of the year, the United States saw 306 mass shootings. Mass shootings are defined as where 4 or more people are killed or injured, right? 306. Paul, the problem is that this has become ubiquitous. It's not even, so when we have to define what's normal and abnormal, if you left this room right now and walked outside without your pants on, everybody would be going, dude, that guy doesn't have his pants on. Mm-hmm. But if everybody was walking around without their pants on, nobody cares anymore because nobody's wearing pants anymore, right? Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter. Right?
It's so common, it hardly jumps out at you.
That's what's happened with the gun issue, is that nobody looked at Uvalde and went, oh, that's weird. Everybody went, oh, it's just another one. Hope it doesn't get me. And then it happens to someone. Listen, it should have affected us Illinoisans a little harder because this was in Highland Park. This could have been Highland Park's not so dissimilar from McLean County. This could have been a 4th of July parade in Downs or in Chenoa or right here in Bloomington Normal. There's nothing that says that, and yet we, the people, just kind of brush it off. We've had, like, Uvalde was the killing of, let's be honest, these were basically, these were babies, right? I mean, when I say baby, I don't mean that they're in a crib or something, but these are children. If we can't find common sense ways to come together to stop the slaughter of innocent children, I don't know where we've gone as a society.
What do you suggest we do?
Yeah. And so certainly I'll be not the first person to suggest that let's go after stuff that's pretty simple to do first, right? We were doing some of that anecdotal conversation before we started the interview. Oftentimes there's 80% of things that we can agree on, and then there's the other 20% that we just can't budge on, right? So let's let Democrats and Republicans, let's start with an immutable, two things that are absolutely factually true. We are not going to have a gun-free society. It is guaranteed through the Second Amendment. We should not have a society that allows for rampant access to firearms that anybody can get at any time, and these mass shootings can not only continue, they can grow, right? Those are the two extremes. All right, so the left isn't going to get no guns, and the right isn't going to get all guns. Where can we meet in the middle? So let's agree. People that have any documented problems with violence immediately are put on a list, and you're not allowed to have a weapon. Mm-hmm.
Then we'd have to figure out, what determines violence.
Absolutely.
Define definitions, right?
Absolutely. But I think that we can come back to it. If I've had to go to, Joe Blow's house because he was involved in a domestic violence dispute and he hit his wife, I'm not going to let Joe Blow have a gun anymore, right? Okay. Why? Because he has a demonstrated history of violence.
An inability to hold back his rage.
You got it, right?
Okay.
So those are people that you can very easily go, whoosh, you don't get them, right? And maybe that they're, and again, we'll get into weeds if we spend too long of what
sure, right,
those
exactly.
Be. If you're a person that has committed a felony, Cool. No firearms for you, right? Now we'd have to define violent felonies versus others. This person stole from people. Is that person a gun risk, right? So these are things like red flag laws that we've talked about. If we see that there are red flags in people, if you have documented thing, right? If somebody has said, I'm going to come to school and I'm going to kill, I'm going to kill other kids, immediately, if that person has any firearms that are actually signed out to them, or they have them as listed on their FOID ownership, immediately those guns have to be confiscated and turned in, because unfortunately you can't be trusted.
Right.
Period. Now, does this mean that you have to create some sort of an organization that's actually policing these things? Yes, they're actually called the police, right? This recent shooting did happen in Highland Park, and one of the questions was, there were some flags that came up with this young man. Why was he allowed to have these firearms? Again, this is a perfect example of what I think you were asking before of, well, we have some of these rules, but now somebody's got to be able to enforce them. What if the laws aren't very good to enforce them? Here's your problem. Brendan Hefner, former police chief in Bloomington, is now the head of the Illinois State Police. And he was the one that said there wasn't enough credible information for us to disarm or not allow the gun ownership of the young man that shot the people in Highland Park. So maybe it forces us to step back and go, do we need to lower the threshold? Do we need to, because it still happened. And we had some understanding. Is it a perfect situation? No, it's not. Are some people going to be, the vast majority of people are not losing their guns. Period. If you are a person that understands the serious nature of guns, one of my best friends in town, I won't name names. He was the guy that helped me when I decided that I was going to purchase a firearm. He was so strict about rules and how these are supposed to be treated. I won't help you purchase this or tell you how to do this unless you agree to go to classes. And he was very serious about it, because I find the vast majority of gun owners are actually really responsible people.
Sure.
They are. But there's a problem in the United States of America. Something is happening here that's not happening everywhere else. And and I want you to think for 1 second, because this is a thing that tends to bother me. How often do these shootings, do you see women as the shooter?
Hardly ever.
Hardly ever. And even then, we could take it back. So it's not women, and it traditionally hasn't been people of color either. This is a younger white male problem.